Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Survivor New York Veterans vs. Contenders recap podcast here on the Live Reality Games Network. It's me, it's Naomi Calhoun, and I am so excited because we are getting into one of three podcasts this week, the very first. And to kick it off, we have not only Chris, our Lord and Savior, but we also have Mark Levy, live reality game and org icon, and we also
icon.
I say icon. Am I wrong? I'm not wrong. And
I'm terrible at LRGs. Sure.
The most recently eliminated player, TJ. But starting off, Chris, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm super pumped for this. But all day I've been working on stuff for season 5, which is in 3 weeks. But I'm so excited to talk with Mark and TJ. It's been way too long since I've last talked to you guys.
Way too long.
Seriously.
So long.
I know. And Mark, how are you doing?
I'm all right. Today was part 2 of my weekend, which sounds weird to say like that, but I just saw the Jungle Cruise and I liked it a lot. It felt like The Mummy, which was nice, and I've been excited talking with TJ and Chris and you because I fucking love Survivor New York, and I'm one of the bigger fans. I've never played it yet, so.
Yes, and that's what I have to say is I was so excited that we could get you here because you are somebody who you messaged me. You're like, oh man, I can't. If I start an episode, I gotta finish it. I gotta follow it all the way through. I love how much love you have for the show. It definitely shines through. But we also have with us an amazing person, a friend of mine. Even though he's voted me out before, it's fine. I'm over it. It's okay. It's TJ.
So 3 years later,
it's still funny to me. I always forget about it, and then I go, "Oh yeah, you were there. Oh yeah, you voted me out." But it's fine. We're all moving past it. TJ, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Obviously, not wanting to be here this soon, but yeah, I just recently moved. For those that don't know, so still handling that and whatnot for the new place, but it's going good.
And as Davey says, it's the castaway who I voted most sexy. Hey, TJ.
TJ, did you go to Marist College?
I did. That's where I got my.
So funny.
Yes, I got my bachelor's from there.
Because he was wearing a Marist shirt at Brooklyn South, and I was like, "Oh, okay. Marist, I'm from there." And then he voted me out, so that's fine.
Naomi, this is too small of a world. You're 10 minutes away, growing up from my house, and TJ is 30 minutes away.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
I'm from Miami.
Crazy. Oh, well,
sorry, Mark.
Okay, Mark. Sorry, you're kind of out there.
It's fine.
But we're gonna do Survivor New York, real New Yorkers next season, and you won't be a part of it. No, I'm kidding, guys. I'm so excited to talk about this episode. It's been a little bit more than a week, right, since this episode aired, but people are talking about it, and people really loved it. TJ, we saw a chaotic merge, and then we saw this episode. I would say the sort of the merge was a lot of chaos, and then one side has come out pretty dominant. How did you feel watching it all back?
It's so interesting watching it, trying to remember things that happened, during that time, because obviously it was just a blur at that moment. And now, with the pandemic and everything 2 years later, it's crazy. But it's also interesting because obviously you see a lot of things that you obviously weren't back then. And also just from my perspective, seeing myself and seeing how I was interacting and certain things that I said that I'm like, why the hell did I say that? It's very interesting to kind of, reflect a little bit.
I would love to hear what. What was the most craziest thing you said that you were like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that?
I don't know if it was crazy, but I think it was just so funny how at Merge, I was so convinced, which she semi was, but that Paddock was with me, and Bennett's like, I don't know, and Kai's like, I don't know, and I'm like, guys, don't worry, it's fine. And as we're going to the tribe, and I'm talking to Paddock, and I'm like, you need to relax, you need to calm down. Meanwhile, she was in good shape, and me not seeing kind of what she was doing behind the scenes, I thought it was so funny how naive I was, in certain aspects, and thinking how Billy and I were in somewhat control. Even though, certain things transpiring before merge kind of obviously hurt that. But yeah, me being naive was pretty funny.
Well, first of all, Kai is here to say that TJ and Mark on my screen is the only thing that can justify me staying up past bedtime. No bedtimes, Kai. You're
what
an adult.
about me and Naomi, Kai?
Yeah.
Hello, there's 2 other people here.
Well, and Bennett's saying that TJ was so sure he had paddock unlock. I mean, we're going to talk about this, but I actually think that a lot of what goes on in the merge is basically this huge power struggle that seems to be on a surface level, just like, oh, they're going to vote out TJ and Billy. But I think realistically it is a lot deeper. We talked about it last week with Billy a little bit, but I think we're going to talk about it more, especially the way we see this episode really shake out. And Jackie here to say heartbreaking, not Bennett on YouTube again. Billy, leave.
I love Jacqueline.
No
Oh my God.
Alone. He's contributing. Well, so let's start off. Chris, what do you want to talk about with this episode? Where should we start?
Well, I think the most important thing was, for years and years, I've always said, I love the Survivor auction, and I needed to do it. I needed to have like a fun little moment and having my own auction. And what is my favorite place to eat? Dunkin' Donuts. So I kind of added the 2 things together. And, we threw in some, advantages in the game as well. So it's like 3 fun little things in my life that I could bring into this game. And I think it went really well. I mean, if you guys saw, Paddock got stung by a bee.
She's like this for half the...
Yeah, for like, I had to edit so much of it down because she constantly would start screaming, and everyone was like, what the fuck is wrong with this girl? Like, production and cast were just kind of annoyed by her at this point. Yeah, it was fun just like do the gag thing with Davey getting the tap water, just seeing people's reactions to food, even though they've been getting food like probably the last day and a half anyway. And then the advantages. I think the advantages were really fun, like Davey finding his and Paddock getting hers. I just wish I had done maybe like 1 or 2 more, or maybe made one that was like sort of obvious, because we had people not bid at all. Like Bennett didn't even bid 1 time. I don't think during the entire auction. You didn't, and I think Billy didn't at all.
Yeah, I think
and Kai didn't.
Billy didn't bid because he wasn't there, Chris.
Oh, I'm sorry. My God.
I mean, you can't bid if you're not the auction.
I'm tired.
Alejandro didn't bid.
Alejandro, that's what I meant.
Would you have been like, oh, here's an advantage? Because like you could definitely tell while watching the episode, just rewatched it. Like people like TJ are just like waiting for like an actual like advantage. Like
well, I think that's a good point, and it's almost like you're trying to overcome the Survivor fan by saying, well, you think that we're going to I was showering at the latrine, says Billy.
That's next to the Dunkin' Donuts, right? No.
Yeah, and this is like this is what Ben is pointing out. They don't always save the advantage for the final item because we know that you guys know the game so well. Why would we put the advantage at the end when we know you're all going to bid for it, when we could sneak it in to the middle of the auction, and then you're rewarded for actually spending your money in the middle of the auction rather than waiting for it at the end. TJ's eviction happened so long ago. Is this really live, or did I stumble across an old freak out? Welcome to the pod, Anessa.
I mean, the reaction that Paddock has when the black coffee is shown, just like it's the same thing with the bees, Paddock hates bees and coffee.
My favorite through line through this whole episode is that Bennett is dying for caffeine, and he is so like determined to get an advantage that he's like, I will not take the coffee. You can just see it in his eyes. He is like,
well, in an on-air clip, there was iced coffee up for bid. Nobody bid on it. Louis ended up taking it from production. And I was surprised because iced coffee is life, as Davey said many times. And I was sort of offended that nobody took that.
I mean, I would have bid on it, that's for sure.
Yeah, me too.
Not I.
And another funny, and I think they mentioned this on the great Survivor cast recap of Survivor New York. But yes, we knew Sarah was a vegan. We did not have vegan items. And I think we said to Sarah that there's nothing vegan in here. I think we like warned her ahead of time. We were like, I don't think there's anything vegan in here, Sarah. I can't remember.
I mean, coffee, I think, is vegan. And I think the donuts...
I mean, it's water.
Well, coffee without black coffee is vegan. Iced coffee, light and sweet, is not. And I think she kind of knew that, but I love that she bid anyways. And then Sarah trying to sell her food is one of my favorite moments of the whole season. Yeah. Like, so I cut tap water is vegan.
That is true.
I shared my coffee with Bennett, says Kyle. Very cute. I love it. TJ, do you have any other memories from the auction?
Yeah. So, I mean, you said it kind of being a Survivor fan. So, I don't know what it was, if it was mental exhaustion, just what I expect at actual, when we watch the show. I did not expect that everything was going to be Dunkin' Donuts. Like, I was like, okay, here's some food items. Maybe Chris will bring something out, on a tray or something or whatnot. And, another item went, no tray, no usual thing. So by the end, I was like, crap. I'm like, probably most of the stuff was in the actual bags or in the box or whatnot. The other thing was I was also my stomach was in knots. I was so worried that I was going to, and pardon my TMI, everyone, but going to poop myself, that I was forcing myself not to eat at that point. But yeah, so with the nerves and everything, it was like, well, I don't even want to eat this. So like, why am I going to bid on this? I don't want the donuts.
Calories.
Yeah, but I was like, I wasn't worried about eating at that point. I was worried, my BFF just got voted out. I'm already, kind of eating. I'm still probably bound up from the rice from the day before, and the beef jerky and whatever the hell else we ate, because I know that was not a balanced meal, whatever I ate throughout the day. So yeah, it was just a mixed emotions. And then by the time at the end, I was like, stuff probably was gotten, and I kind of just overshot it. But
Did you eat the rice, TJ?
of course I did.
That's
not a lot. I was definitely eating more. Like I had some, like I think we had clementines, and I definitely ate some of the beef jerky.
It's not the worst meal.
I mean, I really didn't eat a lot. I wasn't hungry because my nerves were just shot. My stomach was in knots every single challenge just because of how close they were, and obviously going to the first tribal, that just set the tone for the rest of the day that I'm going to have to be on my toes. Yeah.
Well, but TJ, let's talk about this early game, because I was really surprised. I remember in the moment, in the merge, I was shocked that Billy went, and then I was like, oh my God, it's going to be TJ next. And I had seen you on day one as, I don't want to say like a father figure, but like an older brother figure to everybody on this tribe, right? And we saw that like Paddock was looking up to you, and Billy was really trusting in you. And it felt like you were the core of this group. And so I was surprised that people were ready to cut you so quickly. And nobody felt, I think, what you give off, which is a very trustworthy vibe. Talk to me about the early game. You had a lot of highs, a lot of lows, and really, I think, came out in a good spot. And then that was immediately decimated by the first vote. I
mean, I was pretty set, I think, early on. Not one person, although watching back, seeing Dresden's, it's funny, Dresden and I were clocking each other, which was pretty funny. I did semi-trust Dresden. It was just the fact that he had that idol. And like a lot of people have mentioned, the fact that 2 idols on one tribe is very scary. So you have to make sure that you're not that person. So I wanted to make sure that if, we went back to tribal, things happened, it was not going to be me. Somebody else could get hit, but it wasn't going to be me. So I just kind of was building these bonds. After the first swap, finally we get Kai, who, as people know, we kind of somewhat knew each other. And then we had, kind of getting to know Sarah, which was somebody that I had wanted to work with early on, if we didn't end up. So I kind of just, people know me, especially in orgs. I'm known for my social game. That's what I try to do. Did not expect that I was going to be labeled as a challenge threat or this alpha male persona. Was really thrown off by that a little bit, because that's not usually me. And yeah, that's what I did. I mean, the thing that I think even before the merge that really screwed my game up was the that final 12 when you had to pick the leaders. I think that's what really screwed me over. And Billy, obviously. That was the turning point.
It's a tough decision, and I think it goes to show how like that also shook up the game in a very interesting way. That I think actually maybe you guys would have been more on top has it not happened. And as Bennett refers to them, the 4 misfit toys maybe would have been the first 4 voted out of the merge otherwise. Also, I love Anessa asking, do contestants have access to the toilet in the house? Like you weren't there and also played this game. But yes, you can go to the bathroom inside the house. We're not monsters. We don't make you pee in
You're not making them shit in like a corner, like outside.
Oh my
Right.
god. Like
Although,
someone's house.
Alex, they have to use the pool.
Aqua dumps. I mean, it's real, you know.
It is. We don't condone that on Survivor New York, I have to say. Well, so Anessa asks a very good question, and I guess we can get right into it, TJ. What do you think is your biggest mistake? Is it that final 12 moment, or is it something different?
This is something that I've been thinking over and over and over again, like where I could have changed things. That final 12 moment could have gone differently because originally, Billy mentioned, they saw Bennett was pushing me to be the leader. And I was like, fuck no, I do not, because I have a feeling something's going to happen. It's not going to be good. I also probably would have made a very different decision than Billy, possibly, which also could have changed things because we could have lost the challenge. Because I possibly was going to kind of do 1-1, but then we might have lost the challenge and gone to that joint tribal. I would say the biggest mistake, one was, and I actually have the clue, which I kept just for the thing, was not finding this goddamn idol at Tribal Council that was apparently by my foot that Jordan Kalish told me later on. I think that was a big thing because I find that idol, I have it in my possession. Technically, Kyle would have gone then at that Tribal, which, as you can see from the episodes, Kyle's not with me. So that would have been great. And Dresden's still in. So I think that was, I don't know if I call it a mistake because that was just kind of fate. It was dark and I couldn't find it. The only other thing I would say is maybe when I go home and they split the votes, not, I do, Bennett. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm just impressed that you kept it. Anybody who keeps this stuff, I don't know.
I have a couple things. I have the one immunity idol that immunity idol necklace that I had from Surviving Brooklyn South that I never played. I have that somewhere. Yeah. But yeah, I would say the only other thing would maybe be if I do vote Bennett, if I know that it's going to be a split and try and force a tie. But Bennett and I have talked about this. I don't know if I could have done it because I don't know if it would have mattered. You know, if they would have flipped the votes to him on a revote. You know, Kai's still in that middle. Does she more so turn on Bennett? Does she stick with me? Do I piss off Bennett? If I stay for one more vote, now Bennett goes to jury. Do I piss him off? And now I have one. If I somehow magically make it to the end, do I have a jury member against me? You know, there was so many things. I don't know. I think I played the best game I could. I think you also have swaps. I just kept getting swapped with Billy, who I love to death, but that put a huge target on us, you know? So I would say those are the things, but I don't know if I could have changed it, you know, if it would have meant any different with the way the game played out.
Do you mind me asking why you ended up putting Jack in the episode before?
I was waiting for this to come up because Billy will never ever let me live this down.
As I've heard, Billy was. So we watched this episode live at my apartment with some Surviving New York icons, including Kai and Billy and Alejandro and Louis and Alex, and then Billy's lovely fiance. And crying immediately now. And Billy was talking about this, and I think there are two sides to it. I do think it's fair. I also think, in retrospect, it's dumb. But let's talk about it, TJ. What was going through your mind during the voting for Jack? Rogue vote. Why did you do it?
So, to be honest, I can't fully remember my full strategy behind this. The problem I had was, again, Billy was my number one, and we weren't sure at first where the votes were falling. Were they falling on Billy? Were they falling on Kai? Because so many names were going around. who fully had the majority, because again, at the merge, we don't know who we can fully trust and not trust, because people are saying all these things, but you don't know until that vote, are they actually with you or against you, which clearly they were against us, but you don't know because I didn't really interact with some of these people fully throughout the game. The other problem was I really didn't want it to be Paddock. I'd rather it have been someone else because I was working with Paddock. Paddock and I had a pretty good bond. So when Bennett and them were like, maybe we should do Paddock because of her being shifty, I was like, crap. Now I have to decide. I obviously have to stick with my alliance, but I can't vote Paddock because if I'm not going home this round. I have the necklace. I have to make sure I set myself up the next vote where I still have some allies. So if I burn and vote Paddock and burn her, that's another person I don't have. I don't know why. I don't think we knew where the numbers were fully forming. It was stupid, obviously. I will say it was funny that no one suspected it was me, and blamed on everyone else but me. The only actual person who ever knew that it was me until the end, when I obviously tell people, was I actually did pull Paddock aside and said, just to let you know, they showed that. She's the only one. And apparently she never told anyone, it seemed. So I think that just showed that Paddock and I did have trust with each other. I don't know. Logically, it didn't make sense. I don't know why I did it. It was kind of funny.
I think I know why she didn't tell anybody, and that was because she knew that Sarah had thought it was Kyle and other people had thought it was Andrea. So it was better for you to leave and then for other people to think that rogue vote, that player is still in the game, and it would have caused more chaos going forward, and she could use that toward her advantage. That's my only thought on that.
I also have to say, on the alternative, we know very much so from this episode that Paddock is stopping very hard to vote out Bennett instead of you. And I think that's a really good indicator of Paddock knowing, like what Chris just said, that she needs to make sure that she does not reveal that you're the rogue vote for Jack. And then also she sort of is trying to incentivize, well, look, I think it benefits you to not say anything, but also because you have such a good relationship with TJ. Exactly, Alex. Paddock did not want TJ to go, and therefore she is pushing Bennett and is not going to reveal this information that clearly puts TJ in a bad light. And so what I have to say is I loved this relationship between you and Paddock. I think this whole season, it's a really funny arc. And we see in the next episode, since that's already out, we're going to talk a little bit of spoilers, but not too much, is that like Paddock becomes the last remaining Algonquin, and in a way, suddenly the threat level is down, and suddenly like she is a very minor threat compared to the blue and the pink that are sort of still in large numbers. And I do think that what this merge was we had 4 blue members and 4 pink members, and they kind of looked and said like, well, there's 3 orange. And you just were in this unfortunate situation where, like, not only were you guys 2 orange members, but you were also physical threats and seen as comp beasts and all this stuff, all these connotations that, like, make it really hard to shake the target. And so I respect you guys a lot. You guys played your hearts out. Yes. And look, we said this, Paddock. We said it. We're trying to save TJ. We understand. We understand. We loved your bond.
She did. I will say also with Paddock, because I don't think this was shown. So when
her name is right there, Nessa. Like her last name is right there in the comments.
I think what's happening is Nessa's reading. So on
Oh,
YouTube in the subtitles, I watch the subtitles because that's how I do things sometimes. It does say Paddock like a jail cell. So maybe Nessa is watching the YouTube version.
With Paddock, they didn't show. I mean, again, I was mentally exhausted at that point, and the fact that after the immunity challenge happened, I knew that I was in trouble. Pretty much Paddock was kind of my eyes and ears into like Sarah and Jack and them, that they were trying to split the vote. So pretty much I was hoping that the vote split was going the other way. Not that I wanted it to, because I love Bennett to death. But obviously I just wanted to stay one more vote. And pretty much we had a system where it was 1 or 2. I forget which one was what, but pretty much she told me ultimately that I was getting the majority votes just by a signal. So that kind of showed kind of just the relationship that we had with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, you have played with Paddock before on Brooklyn South 3. And I'm curious, like, getting to see Emily in this season. And because you know a lot of people from this season. Just in general, I knew most in real life. Yeah. But you had played with Paddock more than anybody else, right?
He played with Andrea, too.
Andrea... For one, but, and then Alejandro as well.
In my mind, my game is pretty linked up with Emily, even though that changed by the time I got out. But that's a whole different story altogether. It was interesting seeing her be on the defensive for most of the season, you know? Because when I played Brooklyn South with her, I think she was pretty much in control until she got out.
Right. From a swap and an idol, to be fair, yeah.
Yeah. It's just interesting watching her be a scrambling marshmallow queen, you know, as she called herself a few episodes ago. No, I adore her. It's like, because she's those people that if you're actually playing with her, like, you're good. You are good. But if you're not playing with her, you're not good. You really, like, stop talking. Just stop. You're, like, burying yourself. Like, because I've also played an orc with her, and we were by far ride or dies. And we made it pretty far, right? Yeah. How far did she get that game, Naomi?
God, I don't remember. I just remember that I got voted out like 8th.
I think she made like 10th place. I'm not sure, but like, it's a thing of like, if you're working with her, like, you're so fucking good. But like, she is such a dangerous player because I don't think anyone ever thinks of her as dangerous.
Chris, you want to answer this? Vanessa wants to know if you think Emily plays better from the bottom or the top. Curious what she prefers.
That's kind of interesting because I feel like I've never seen Emily play from the bottom. Like in Survivor Buffalo, I felt like she was always in the majority. This game, I mean, except for the Dresden vote, I think she's been pretty much in the majority so far. In Brooklyn South, she was running things. So I feel like Emily doesn't know what it's like to be at the bottom, the true bottom, where she's like the only one on the out, or maybe her and somebody else. I don't think that she's gone through it yet, unless it's an unaired season of something. But I would like to see what Paddock would do in that situation.
Yeah.
I think that she would be very scrappy and she would be very manipulative. I think if like TJ and her were switched, she would have voted for Bennett, if you know what I'm saying. I think she would have just threw her vote and went for a tiebreaker and like, you know, tried to force people to flop. And in like her speech, she could have maybe flipped somebody else.
Yeah, for sure. And TJ, another relationship I love with viewers, speaking of Algonquin in general, is I love the connection that you and Liska had this season. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it was formed very early on, and you kind of made your choice. You said, we're not going to vote out Liska, we're going to vote out Sam. And I think you and Billy were really at the core of that. With Paddock, you've always talked about a 3. Going forward, like, I feel like you and Liska could have been a very interesting pair had she not been unfortunately voted out so early. Was it the teacher thing? Do you think there was something else that was sort of bringing you guys together as like an alliance in any way? I'm curious about that relationship since we didn't get to see it play out after the first 3 votes.
I mean, it was definitely the teacher thing. When you look at, just because I play more orgs, when you look, you got to find something to connect with the person with more than just game, where you can kind of connect and actually talk. Because if you just talk about just strategy, which is fine, but you don't get that real connection. You want that bond where they're not going to break that with you. And that's where I always try to find something. And it was easy because we're both history teachers. But beyond that, you know, we're both educators. We love working with kids and stuff like that. And her and I talked a lot, like on downtime, just, you know, stories, you know, almost like war stories and stuff, about stuff going on, you know, with our teaching and our experience and stuff. So she's also just a genuinely nice person. Like even just the first night, I remember night 0, we were talking. She was one person that I felt like was just very, you know, wholesome. And, you know, you could really, there's certain people you're unsure of if you can trust, where they're on that fence, but there's certain people that you know you can. Billy was one. Liska was definitely another early on. And I would have loved to. I would have continued to work with Liska. I felt bad that we voted out Sam because I did like Sam.
Mhm.
I didn't get the same connection. We just didn't bond as much as Liska and I did, and that's kind of why Billy and I were like, we got to go this way. This will work better for us down the road. It didn't ultimately because the swap comes and then she gets voted out because of partly because of the whole idol story, but yeah. So I love Liska. She's a great person.
Yes, she is.
Yeah,
I miss
definitely.
Liska. Like Liska's such a calming presence in my life. I would bet on TJ in any random season. It's just raw skills. I agree, Inessa. I think that TJ, what makes you such a great player, like I said about the older brother thing, but it's like people look at you and say, like, this dude is someone I want to work with. And it is, I think, a talent that not everybody has when they play these teams. And I think you make a really great point about, like, you got to find something that is not game related to connect with people on. And it is really important, I think, in that day zero moment, in that first vote or so, to look at somebody and say, like, hey, we have a bond, and like I care about that bond outside of like whether or not we vote together or whether or not we play together. It is like mutual street. Mark, I'm curious. This episode, I think we also see a lot of Jack vote discussion.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that this is something you didn't really know about going into this season. So I want to know, like, how do you feel about the paranoia about like the rogue vote in this game? Like, people are like freaking out over rogue votes this season. How do you feel about it?
Well, because there's two people that are always freaking about rogue votes. I feel like Jack and Andrea. Because I feel like I think Andrea's playing is like how I would feel like I would play in this season, where I would be like, I trust people, but I'm paranoid as shit. Like the rogue vote will get you. That's a thing. Like there's like if an idol comes into play and there's like 2 rogue votes on someone, that person can easily go. Like there's reasons why there are people you don't write down in games. Like I mean it's like that simple. Like, I get it. Like, and I feel like because Jack's name is out for most of the season anyways. Because I think even from his first tribal council, he was considered, if I'm not mistaken. But like you just feel for him because like he's like now finally in a position where he's counting from like the episodes that just aired. Like I feel like he's starting to be in a little bit of a better position than he was before. But it's still that thing of like, I'd be scared of TJ writing down my name. That's it. Like,
yeah.
Well, you never know what's going to happen.
I guess Billy was scared that TJ wouldn't write down the name he wanted him to write down. But also I think it's a great point. And Chris, I'm curious how you felt watching this all go down, because I feel like we did not, we've seen a lot of game happen, right? I've seen so many live games in my time, and very rarely have I ever seen a rogue vote go well. Or also, like, I've never seen people like question it this hard. It's weird. Most of the time it doesn't work out and everybody just moves on. But in this season, for some reason, everyone is obsessed with these rogue votes. What do you think, especially watching it all back and getting to edit it down?
It's very funny. I think the Andrea Kyle one is one of the most iconic ones of the series, just because we still don't have an actual confirmation of like truth that happened to everybody. Nobody knows 100% of the information that we know as the audience and as the production. But I think I remember when TJ went up and did that vote, Alex and I looked at each other. We were just like in shock because we did not know what he was doing. Like what was this going to mean for everybody else?
Mm-hmm.
And we immediately were like, okay, he's going to cause chaos, but would people be able to figure out the numbers correctly? And
it would have been easy.
Yeah, I was very surprised that someone like Sarah, a mega fan of this game, couldn't count the numbers that it could have been one of you 4 to throw that rogue vote, and she immediately pinpointed on Kyle. So I think it's very interesting how these rogue votes play so much into the season and play into paranoia and play into these relationships, because I think that people can never really fully trust each other.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I feel like what I love about this cast is that even though, because I know there's some frustration and like spoilers for the next episode of like the big alliance sticking together, but like look at how many cracks are in this alliance, right? They are all looking at each other and being like, "Are you fucking me over? Are you fucking me over?" Like they cannot trust anybody in their group. And then you have Kyle making like 10 Final Fours all around. And I want to talk about the Final Fours because I actually think it's a really interesting strategy we don't see a lot of the time in live games is people making final deals like halfway through the merge. But it is, yeah, the rogue vote showed that the majority 7 only trusted each other so much. I think it's absolutely correct, Bennett. And it is what Bennett is trying to capitalize on next episode that we will talk about on Wednesday and Thursday. But Kyle says, I was playing the odds, baby. And I kind of love this. So Inessa says that Sarah and Paddock are in the best position. So TJ, I want to know, seeing Kyle make all these Final Four deals, what were you thinking seeing this back?
He's gonna kill me. I love Kyle to death. I will say, Kyle. There was a few people that frustrated me, but nobody frustrated me as much. There might have been one other person as Kyle. And I didn't even know about these deals until after. But just that's why I think it was in this episode. I literally we get to a group and somebody says, "Yeah, let's do it," and I'm like, "Is that the actual plan?" Because I knew pretty much Kyle was lying. Like that's what he was just doing. Whenever you ask Kyle something, he was lying. Right. And I think just like they told me about Paddock, I'm pretty sure I went to Kai and Bennett at one point. And I'm like, he's not telling the truth. I don't think he's with us. He's just feeding us a load of bullshit. But yeah, I mean, I think I never make final deals like that. I think it's dangerous. I've always been somebody who, if I get to jury stage, it's like a chess match for me. I have to make sure that all the pieces are in a row. But when those pieces go to the side of the board onto jury, that you can either have their vote or you possibly at least have their vote, and it's not dead to you. I think when you make so many deals, it bites you later on down the line because it may be smart in that sense that everyone has your back, but you have to start burning those people at some point. And if they're either bitter or upset at you, then it creates a further battle if you do get to the end and they're sitting on the jury. So yeah. I don't know if I would have gone with that strategy. Obviously, I didn't. I was stuck with the people that I was stuck with. But yeah, I give him shit for it sometimes, seeing this back with what he does.
Yeah. So, Mark, what do you think? Especially because I feel like I love Kyle to death. And I feel like it's so fun to watch the way he plays because it's really coming through on the screen. I think maybe more than any other player is like what the sense you get of Kyle on the screen is exactly how he's playing the game.
Oh God, I wouldn't hate playing with him.
But you know what? I also think that like part of is that Kyle is actually in the middle, whereas like TJ and Billy and Paddock all kind of thought they were in the middle. Kyle is the middle because Bennett and Kai are pulling at him and saying, vote with us, you need to vote with us. And Davey to an extent as well. But Kyle keeps getting propositioned by his old blue tribe. And he's never going to say no. He's a nice guy. He doesn't want to like upset them, but then it upsets them even more as we see next episode. But he's just very willing to tell you what you want to hear. And that's what makes people sort of suspicious of him. And Nessa says, I don't think Kyle's long for this game. You'll find him in jury soon. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only other problem you run into also, or what Kyle is running into just from watching it from the outside perspective, was being in that middle position. You also can get very comfortable. There's two, being on top, you're comfortable at times, but also being in that middle because you think it's almost like that most eligible bachelor. Everybody wants me, all that stuff. But
Alex is loving this.
But sooner or later, it's gonna bite you. So I think that's where kind of you could see how Kyle's getting more comforting. we'll see if that plays off for him or not. But
like Kyle is just playing the yes man game.
yeah,
If somebody approaches
Mhm.
something with him, he's gonna just say yes
Yeah.
because if he says no, that's only gonna put him in a worse position. So he's constantly going to agree with you. He's constantly going to say yes, and I think that's one of the reasons why he's gotten so far in
Mhm.
this game. Is he's kept that option completely open with every single person, and every single person thinks that they have him. But really, I don't think that many people do.
And wouldn't you say that that's similar to what I mean? I could say that isn't that what I somewhat did when I played Survivor Brooklyn South, where I was kind of yes manning some people or playing that middle.
I mean, I think it's different only because
Yeah.
I think you did have a lot of strong pre-game relationships in that game that helped.
Mhm.
But I think you did play a good game
Yeah.
there.
Well, yeah. So Emily is here today, and then Mark, I want to get your answer. There's a difference between being the one agreeing and being the one suggesting stuff. I think Kyle played the second more, and I do agree. I think Kyle is willing to sort of entertain an idea to a point where it seems like it might be realistic. So, Mark, talk to me about Kyle.
All right, so Kyle's like one of like the 5 people in the season I've never met before. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but from that first confessional on, like, I did not trust him from like as a watcher. I'm like, I don't trust him playing with Kai. I don't trust him playing with people I care about. He's gonna hurt them. That's like exactly what I got. But like then like I see him playing the game. I'm like, oh no, I would like to play a game with him. Nice to meet you, Kyle. I see you in the chat. But like, it's a thing of like, oh man, like I get it because like you have to play for your self-interest. You have to play for your best interest, which is yourself. You don't want to like get voted out. You want to win, of course, or have like a good experience. And like, it's like interesting in my personal opinion watching his confessionals because I do get a villain play from him, but I don't know if I get a villain edit from him. You know?
I think it's hard to edit him as a villain just because he has so much humor, and I don't know if it's the humor that everybody can agree with. For me, I find him very funny, and I think Naomi felt the same way. So it was kind of like, I could go many ways with that edit, but I'd rather go with the funny edit with him because it just seemed more like lovable with him. But I didn't really see him be too villainous. I don't know.
It felt like in like the first confession because he kind of felt like mustache twirly. He was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna play this game." Like
I made a gift of that.
I
get that. Well, because I also think there's a part of it where Kyle is very protective of the blue sort of former blue tribe members, which is I think partially why that they stay in. I do think while Davey and Bennett have this connection and their friendship, I think that Kyle is sort of keeping his options around, but he's also kind of looking at the playing field and saying like, well, I think that I can beat these people. That's what's influencing his decisions eventually to vote certain people out. What can I say? I'm a complex guy. I agree, Kyle. And I also love this sort of Kyle relationship where they get sort of split up and now they're back together. And it's this weird moment where you kind of look at someone and you're like, I mean, I don't think there's much I can do to help you. Like, I am not. And it is a fair point. Kyle is not the only person who can help Kai. It's not like if he flips, the whole game flips on its head. That wouldn't even have happened when Billy was still in the game. They still need one more person to come to that side. And that's, I think, this really interesting relationship between Davey and Bennett that gets even more expanded upon in the next episode. And I love that relationship so much. I love Cranky Bennett to death. And I love that Cranky Bennett is still going to go talk to Paddock and work things out. That's what I love about this game. This cast, rather than sit there and be like, well, I'm so mad at this person now, I'm never going to, like, Bennett, like, all right, let's talk about it. Let's do it. Let's confront. Let's talk about our feelings. We only have like 10 minutes, but like, let's talk about our feelings. I love that about this season. It is really entertaining.
Coffee, he just needs his caffeine. Give him his coffee.
I think Bennett. These 3 episodes of Bennett of the Merge are just the best Bennett that you could get. I mean, just so funny. Like him talking about the idol clue that Davey got, and like him imitating like Jack. It's just true comedy coming from someone like Bennett.
I think it was so funny with Bennett because I said this early on. I was very intimidated by him. He was very, just seeing him and not knowing him well. He just got this. I don't know why. He reminds me of like Blue Steel. Like Zoolander, like kind of just that stare. Like it's just like you can see he's game mode, but as you get to know him, like Bennett's awesome. Like we got on that during that swap and just talking and whatnot. Like it's almost like you knew he was a threat and he's your competition, but at the same time he was so easy to talk to. He was very even tempered, and it was a nice mixture of like just talking, but also like strategy. It was like nice to kind of bounce things off.
And he is very funny. There's a lot of moments that are not aired. I'm actually editing the finale right now, and there's this hilarious moment that I'll have to post, but it's like him and Naomi like going back and forth at each other, and it's just so funny. And I can't wait to hear it. It's just shady. He's like, I love to be shady, and I was like, oh, okay.
What?
But he's hilarious.
Tell me off the air about what that is. Yeah, and I love the sort of Bennett and Kai relationship that evolves throughout the game as well. Like what Chris and I sort of talked about is that this season is really about duos, and I think you need to really watch the season and think about like the connections that people have, even if it's like duos, like like Davey and Alejandro are very close, but Davey's very close to Bennett, but Bennett's very close to Kai, but Kai's very close to Kyle. Like it's this sort of web of two-person relationships in this season, and I think
TJ and Billy,
right? And TJ and Billy, Paddock, and then like, and that's what I love. But something else I really enjoy about this episode is that Bennett, and I think in Bennett's defense, Bennett says something very interesting, which he says, I know, Paddock, that you're not going to work with me. So why am I going to waste my time being nice to you when I know that you want to vote me out? And it's a really interesting sort of thought process behind Survivor. I mean, Chris, I'm curious from all your perspectives as people who played live games before. Do you think and maybe agree with this of like, if this person does not want to work with me, F it. I'm not going to waste my energy or whatever mental sanity I have to try and get them to work with me anymore.
It's so hard because like I in some ways really agree with him in that way. Like he knew his options and he stuck to his guns and constantly like not in a way nagged Kyle and Davey about it, but he just kept pushing his agenda, just going for that one and only narrative. And he could go back to them and say like, hey, I'm only going to you guys trying to make this work. I'm not going to all those people over there. And I'm openly willing to say that here in Tribal Council in front of them. Like, I want to work with you, and that's how bad I'm willing to, work with you. But I will literally shun them out and potentially lose jury votes this way. So it is an interesting strategy. I think in a way, if he kind of built himself up to be a little bit of a goat. So when we get to next episode, we'll get to that. But it's like, I think in Bennett's case, it makes sense. And maybe many other Survivor games, it wouldn't have made sense. But in this case, he was, in fact, doing the right thing. Because those four were never going to work with him. They were never going to entertain the idea of working with him. So why waste his time?
It's the thing, though, of, like, it's the idea of, like, okay, you need this person for, like, the group challenges. But, like, when you get to the merge, you have to think about how to get yourself further and work with the people that you want to work with and give yourself a chance to win challenges, too. Like, I know I'm not going to win a physical challenge against Bennett. Like, that's just the way it is, unless it's, like, sitting in a chair and holding something. Like, that's it. Like, but, like, yeah, like, I'm not saying that I wouldn't work with Bennett in a game. I'm just saying that you have to know when you have to cut people. That's the best way to put it.
Yes.
I do want to say that really quickly. It may have seemed like 5 minutes, but I have timed every round that you guys had. Every round in the merge was roughly an hour and a half. The challenges were all less than 30 minutes. The tribal councils were about 20 minutes or less. So there was some time to socialize and strategize in between that. And if you were out of a challenge and went to the sidelines, you could strategize or talk to anybody that is sitting out, especially like in this challenge that we had for this episode, when you dropped your poll, you could have went and strategized. So, I mean, it may have felt like 5 minutes, but there really was about like 90.
How long was that? How long did the challenge take, by the way? It looked like it took about 20 minutes from what I
think it was
gathered.
I think it was about 15 minutes. No, wait, I think it was 20 minutes.
Yeah, I think it was 20 because I cut a lot of it down. And that's what really sucks is like there were a lot of funny moments in like this challenge and in the next couple challenges that happened, like wobbly stack as well. I can't wait to talk about that.
But
so this challenge in particular is so funny. We haven't even talked about Davy almost knocking Kai on her ass from hopping around in one.
He almost broke his like leg because like that pole was like right below him and he was like hopping around too.
Yep.
Yeah, and we like you can hear me a lot in this edit. I tried to edit myself out a lot this episode, but like because I'm like if that touches your leg, you're out. Like there's so many ways that you can sort of be out if it touched Davy's mouth, like any sort of way. That would be an auto out, and it's so tough to like watch and police people. And TJ, you also had a very
kangaroo.
He says he's a
Davey, who was the one that was blowing into the pipe? That was
Davey.
so funny.
Well, Davey,
okay, Davey was so funny.
You have to watch the episode back. There's a moment where Jack tries it, and then he like moves a little bit. He goes, "I'm not doing that again." Like it's really subtle, but you have to watch it back. It's so funny when it happens.
And Bennett needs to clarify something really quick because you, Naomi, when you did the subtitles, you had said my neck or my back is hurting, but I could have sworn somebody was singing "My Neck, My Back" by Kia.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm trying to
very possible with this cast. Very possible.
So
I mean, I see it all day long, every day. So,
who was okay? That was Bennett. I knew Bennett. Of course, Bennett would be the one to sing that. But I was thinking maybe you subtitled it to be more family friendly.
No. TJ says I hurt my neck, I hurt my back. I think implying the rest of the song. If I'm not okay, I'll have to watch this back. But that's what I thought was sort of happening. The song was implied, but also Bennett going and I is very funny to me.
Oh my god, that was so funny.
So fucking funny.
I want to talk about Davy's like one-legged stance because everyone else just did like the foot like barely off the ground, and Davy does the whole
really
like
sitting in it.
And I think that's a good idea because like I get the worst balance ever, and like the idea of like leg up like that, kind of like in a weird sitting pose, makes sense in my mind, like to like kind of tripod yourself, you know.
You got to have a really, really good balance. Core too, because on top of that, holding that thing, which is not easy to do. That is probably the most.
I've never done well enough in LRG to get to that challenge ever. So
as soon as I saw that challenge, I was like, "Yep, well, looks like I'm not winning another immunity back to back." That's for sure.
Like watching Davey hopping over who was next to him's pole, because like he was
probably Alejandro.
Yeah,
I thought Davey was gonna like whoop, and like I thought we were gonna get like a cartoon moment where he like slips on the metal rod and falls over. Now
that'd be 2 head injuries in 2 episodes in a row. Then
I know. Oh god, and this actually brings me to something I want to talk about with you, TJ. So I'm wondering, did you ever say to anybody like, "Hey, Bennett dropped for the idol clue"? And this is a great innovation from Chris, I think. You're going to get an idol clue if you survive this tribal. Mm-hmm. Did you say to anybody like, hey, Bennett's going to get an idol clue. I'm not. Vote Bennett out instead of me.
I think if I had that conversation with anyone, it probably would have been Paddock. Because, the problem is, at this point, I really was just spent. I was mentally exhausted beyond belief, where I was kind of just like, I felt like I had this almost sullen, like I was still fighting, but I had this sullen thing, like Billy's gone. I see the writing on the wall, even if it's a split. So I think Paddock and I had a conversation. I'm like, well, let them know, like, hello. Like, I think we had a conversation, like Bennett did, go for the clue. I did not, because I knew I wasn't going to, because as soon as Chris said, after tribal, I was like, well, fuck this. I'm not going to try for it because I have to survive this tribal to even get the clue in the first place. But I think that was it. I really couldn't talk to anyone else. I felt like Andrea and I did not get along all game. She frustrated me a little bit. Kyle was just
brain
doing
fog.
Kyle. Yeah, brain fog was bad. I think Sarah was honestly still kind of not bitter but burnt even though Sarah and I talked the next morning about the whole leadership thing, so they felt pretty locked in. So there was only so much I could do, but I feel like people were still going to do what they felt. So I made the pitch, but
You just look so sad the whole 40 minutes. Like
which part?
You look sad the whole episode. Like you're just sad the whole episode.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Like, I literally just rewatched the episode like 9 o'clock.
My BFF just got voted out.
Like you're like you're like, oh man, I just threw my vote on Jack. Womp womp. And then like it's just like every time like you see it's just like womp womp. And I'm like, oh my god, TJ, dude, I want to give you like a hug. Like
it was just a lot of things.
There's a great photo of TJ holding the very special real Survivor torch that we have that I love because I was like, you know what's going to make every Survivor dork on this jury feel better is taking a photo with the real Survivor torch. Like, it would have made me feel better. Whose is it, Chris? We haven't figured it out. It's from Millennials vs. Jenna.
It's Biggie's torch. Biggie from Millennials versus Jenna.
Not the worst player.
No, but I have another one, so...
Oh, that's
right.
Oh, nice.
So if two people get voted out at once, we're ready.
I love when I saw TJ's profile picture with the torch. I thought that was like the cutest thing. I don't know if it's still your profile picture, but I just love that picture.
That was how I first met you, I think, with that profile photo. Like,
I use
you were like my mutual, like you were like one of my mutual friends, like recommendations, and I just saw you. I'm like, that guy has a Survivor torch. Cool.
Yeah, I used it in a couple of orgs too. When people are like, hey, send us a cast photo. All right, yeah, sure, no problem. Boom, boom, here you go.
Yeah,
there it is.
There you go.
In my backyard, love it.
And Chris, is this the episode that Bennett confronts Andrea? I've watched 2 episodes now, so I'm so confused as to what.
Yeah, I'm editing the finale, so I'm like, I can't remember.
I think that's the episode I'm at on Wednesday.
Is it? There's okay. No,
I think I recall seeing that, but not today.
Clue at the Billy Tribal, right? She
Yes.
says at the merger she's gonna fuck with them by telling Clue, and then Bennett is like, whoa, team meeting.
Yeah,
what?
That was.
That was
Go
your
ahead,
Boo
TJ.
episode, TJ. I'm losing my mind.
It was either believe me, I am too.
Oh, that was this episode then. Yeah,
it was either the episode before when Billy went, but I don't know because they talked about that thing. Yeah, I think it was at the beginning of mine.
No, it's this episode.
I'll pull it up.
Yeah.
Oh God, where's that image?
It's like 2 minutes. It's like 2 minutes into this episode. It's like right after TJ.
Yeah, I think it was.
I voted Jack. Oi, and then it's like Andrea's like, look, I don't have an idol. Like. Yeah,
and straight up looks at her shirt. Yes, incredibly funny. Yes, I first of all, that's one of my favorite things in the world. Is Andrea's like, yeah, you can search that I don't have an idol. Sure, it's the first place she goes to. I love Andrea so much, and I feel like
I missed her so much.
She's so funny. But what basically happens to Andrea is she, for whatever reason, does not function well off of the amount of sleep that she got the night before, and she is a little delirious, I would say, this whole day too. And
I had to wake her up.
Yeah,
I was the one that woke her up.
I think she was the last one.
She was. Everyone else was out of the tent. I'll never forget this moment. Everyone was out of the tent, and then I'm like, where's Andrea? And I'm like, wait, she's still in the tent. She's still asleep. So I go back in the tent. And I'm like, well, this is awkward because I don't want to be seen like a creep or anything. But I'm kicking her thing. I'm like, Andrea, and out of nowhere she just goes. She's like, what's going on?
You
and I'm
kicked
like,
her?
no, I kicked her the air mattresses.
Okay.
And she just darts up, and I'm like, oh shoot! And she's like, what's going on? Clue, idol? I'm like. We're waiting for you. We're going to thing. Everyone else is awake. Wait, how long have you? I was like, we've been all awake for an hour, whatever. She came out of nowhere. She just woke up, but she was dead asleep.
Yeah, here's the thing, Billy. As much as I think she got sleep, I don't think she really slept in a productive way because you can see she's just wearing down. And the idol clue is so funny to me. And Chris, we talked about it a little bit. Nobody in live games does this. Nobody just says, I'm going to make up a fake idol clue and not really think about my story. Because you can see Bennett just drill into it and be like, what the fuck is happening? But Andrea's like, yeah, I've had an idol clue. What? And then I love that she tells everybody else that she's trying to fuck with Bennett because everybody else immediately goes, oh, okay, that's just Andrea fucking with Bennett. Like, nobody for any second decides to tell Bennett that that's what she's doing. They'll go, okay, copy that. We're moving on. Like, Chris, this was such a funny scene. I love the way you edited this all together. Talk to me a little bit more about this fake idol clue.
Well, I mean, she took the idea from season 3 because she had helped film season 3. And, there was a fake idol clue that Sam and Hoy had came up with. And she was like, you know what? I want to do the same thing for this season. And she did it to fuck with Bennett, as she said. And she wanted to, create chaos. And she did. And she got, what I think is the most interesting thing is she got Kyle to lie to Bennett's face. And then for Kyle to admit to Bennett that he basically lied to him. And it showed, I think, maybe one of the first bits of deception of Kyle to Bennett, potentially.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Andrea makes great TV. I mean, I can't lie about that. She's a great player in that aspect. Would I have done that as a player? No, because I don't think it would have benefited in most scenarios. But she definitely stirred up this game. She created chaos. And I think she definitely opened doors and paths for other people to take advantage of that. And I think some people do.
Yes, absolutely. And she's so funny. Mark, I want to know a little bit more about your thoughts on Andrea, especially in this game.
I remember I played one LRG with her for 1 hour, which is Brooklyn South, when she literally was like, we have to get Paddock out because Paddock is going to try to get me out. Obviously I haven't gotten to that part of this yet, but she's great. I fucking love Andrea so much. I miss her so much. She's also great to play Mafia with because you can tell she's evil immediately. I love her to death, but she's like the worst liar ever. And I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm not working with you. Cool. I'm gonna try to get you. And I know I've talked to Forsenhauser about this before, about and I think I talked to you, Naomi, about this also, about how she just is, she's great to be on the same side with. But oh boy.
Yeah. So Kyle says, I was made an accomplice without giving consent. The only if I didn't say yes. It was very clever on her part, though, because I had to stick with her on it. And here's the other thing. The paranoia woo kind of confessional. If we noticed this at the watch party, if you watch the episode back, you can see Andrea in the background of a group conversation go to Louis and then do the paranoia woo in the background of another shot. So you can see it happen twice in the episode, and it's so fucking funny. And that's actually what I love about Survivor New York, is that you can just see that this is authentic. Somebody's doing a confessional right over there while somebody else is talking over there. It's all happening at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows how the paranoia brews and how everybody gets to talk to each other. And I love it. It's so funny. So go back and watch the episode just for that moment because you can see it.
I'm obsessed with Anessa's comment that Andrea is the real god of mischief.
She's Loki.
That's
She's
hilarious.
Loki.
She's a Loki. Oh my god, that's so funny.
And she will have no idea who that is. That's the best part.
Yeah, sure.
That's the best part.
Someone go on her Facebook right now and call her Loki. Just do it right now.
It is such a shame too. Andrea's in North Carolina, so she cannot be on production for season 5, which is devastating to me because I miss her so much. And I just love her energy around the tribes. TJ, what else do we need to talk about from this episode or from Survivor New York in general? Anything else that we haven't touched upon in your experience?
I'm trying to think.
Where were you when Dresden went to the latrine and got the idol?
We're going to bring this up again. I think Billy brought it up last podcast. So we pretty much said that if all 6 of us go to get the clue, it's going to look very suspicious. Because when we found it, I'm pretty sure it might have been Pink that had just come up or was coming up as we were walking away. Mm-hmm. So half of us decided we were going to go. Whether that was stupid or not, probably, because obviously we didn't have control of the idol. But yeah, that was pretty much the decision. Was half of us were going to go, and I may have forced Billy to go to the bathroom. Be like, okay, we'll go over here.
Billy P.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. Was that I think it was half of us were going to go for the idol, half of us were going to go to the bathroom to at least maybe throw off some suspicion, because we assumed that since we got the clue, the other tribes possibly had it too, just because of where it was located. It was very central to everybody. So yeah, we went with that. Maybe that will be a mistake, because I could have gotten my hands on it. I could have gotten my hands on possibly 3
Billy,
idols.
you're in a relationship.
I mean, Survivor.
Engaged. Oh my God, this is too much.
Love you, Billy.
I secretly, I'm not gonna say that. Never mind. Anyway,
No.
TJ, I'm just curious because you are a veteran. You played, I think, one of the most intense Survivor games of all time is Survivor Brooklyn South Season 1.
Yes.
24 people, 1-day game. You made it to second place. What is your thought about when you first arrived to Survivor New York and you saw the beach, you saw your camp, you saw the challenges? I just want to know your overall thought of the experience.
Well, I mean, playing in this, because this Survivor New York was only my second LRG. So playing my first LRG and being a runner-up, some people are like, they'll go out early, or maybe there'll be a merge boot, there'll be a juror or whatever. So you have a lot of gap to how to improve your game. Being a runner-up, there's only one other position you could be, which is winning it. So my goal was obviously, I had big shoes to fill where, I want to obviously improve. I want to win this game. So when I saw the beat, I was like, I don't know, I just felt at home. I felt in my element. This is Survivor Brooklyn South, but on steroids. We're out on beach. So that the challenge is going to, and as the challenges, kept popping up, with the first challenge and then us losing, I was like, oh crap. The second challenge was the digging, which I still probably have sand under my nails from that damn challenge. But I just felt in my element. And I felt like I got right to work. I was a little, the nerves were there, but at the same time, it was what you're doing. You just have to take what you did in Brooklyn South and, make it better. Because a big criticism I got in Brooklyn South from you, being one, was the idea of me being wishy-washy or not having as much of a command or that kind of, that strong resume that when Stephanie won, she had. Even though I still managed to get some votes. So I wanted to kind of improve on that. So that's kind of what I looked to do. And, as people saw, I was kind of semi in control without fully appearing to be in control, and just try to stay calm, cool, and collected. I did keep my sunglasses on most of the time because my eyes do give a lot away. I know they do. And I think I frustrated Paddock and some other people by doing that. But I was like, I want to make sure that I can, talk to people, but still they don't fully see into me. And I just kind of went with that. I mean, I would not change my entire experience just from the production standpoint, from what you guys had put forth. I was in awe, just every challenge, even us being able to, people didn't see, even when we were eliminated, we got to play, we got to do the challenges afterwards, which was so much fun, even though we were eliminated. And just I've made bonds that that they'll never break. I've made some really, really good friends that aren't just, acquaintances. They're friends, and we still hang out and everything.
And I have to say, TJ, not only this, you were an alternate. You got put on this cast late, not too late into the game, but late into the game. And we got you and we were like, great. We know, sometimes with alternates, you're worried that they won't be as good as the person they're replacing. And we had no such qualms about you when you came on board to this season. And I do think it's a really interesting game that went a lot different how the person you replaced play. And it is really compelling to watch you really just kind of, I don't want to say going confidently, but you went in very self-assured. And I think that's what comes across. And it's why people trust you and why people want to work with you. Chris, like I said, TJ was an alternate. What do you think about TJ in this game?
I mean, I think we picked him as the first alternate for a reason. I mean, I think he just gives like this really strong energy of likability, of somebody you want to trust. Like I didn't really work with TJ and Survivor Brooklyn South till later in the game, but I considered him somebody like a close ally just very quickly because he was able to connect with me in that sort of way. Um, and I think he was that sort of person for a lot of people. And I think Dresden was the only one that was able to get a really good read on him early on. Um, Everybody was going to him. Everybody wanted his opinion. But how is he able to do that sort of thing? And I think that's really credits his social ability. And maybe it goes with like being a teacher, and maybe it goes with just like everything he's gone through in his life. But he has this great ability to just bond with people on a real level that doesn't seem like it's a show for like this game, and that he won't be the same person afterward. He's like the same person in the game as he is out of the game. And I think that's his like really strong suit. And I'm glad that we have him on this cast because I don't really see many people playing Survivor games in that sort of fashion anymore. Maybe in the early like LRG games I've seen that, but now it's like very, very schemy and very, very cutthroat right from the start.
Yeah.
So that's what I have to say about him.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, and Mark, any thoughts on the episode as well? Like, we're so lucky that we get to have you as a fan, and I think anybody who watches this season, like, we have some awesome YouTube commenters and people who are tuning in every week. And Mark, you always have something lovely to say about.
Sorry, that's just so funny.
Yeah. I mean, like, I thought, like, on like what Chris and Naomi said, like, first off, like, TJ, you're great. Like, I've never had a chance to actually play a game with you. Every time I've actually played with you, it's only been like in trivia and we're against each other, and then I lose by 1 point. But like, that doesn't matter. Like, what it's really fun watching you play this. Like, I really liked watching you play this game. I thought from when I was like trying to read Edgic in the season, like early on, and I realized
I don't know why you would, but okay.
Just let it be. I thought you were gonna get like top 5. But also I want to bring up like one thing that we didn't talk about, which is like one of my favorite things like about Survivor New York, is how insanely fun some of the confessional locations are. Like one of my favorite confessionals of all time this season is Emily Paddock on her stomach talking about how she's the Marshmallow Queen. And it's like interspersed throughout like the first minutes of the episode. But in this episode, it's got Davey on the swings. It's actually a beautiful moment because like Davey's kind of like in control, just swinging back and forth. And he's it just was like
mob boss on the swing.
Like I love it. Like it's
so funny. There's a cute moment, Mark, that it's like off camera, but Davey goes up to the group. He's like, "Guys, did you just see that? I just got my confessional done on the swings." And then Andrea goes, "I had one on the swings earlier too." And they were just like so excited about that.
Yes, I love them. Andrea on the tractor also is a highlight, and then Paddock on the tractor as well. Like I love that was also George's idea. I think the tractor, right? George and Alex. Like I love our crew because they are willing to just go. Why don't we just put them, on their stomach, or like Alejandro, like sitting with his elbow. Alejandro always does a confessional like this, and I love it. Like our crew is so amazing. Like the people who helped make the season possible, especially Jess and George and Louis and Jordan and JT, who were really in the thick of it, filming a lot of this strategy. Like it doesn't exist without them, and they're so helpful. And Alex as well. Sorry, Alex, but like it's so fun to watch this season play out, and like they did so much hard work to get it there. And it's funny that you're trying to read the Edgic because we really just shoot what we shoot.
I stopped. I stopped. I was
going to say, for your sanity, I would suggest you stop because there's no Edgic. It's just we put everything that we get in the episode and say, here you go. Enjoy.
I just like love it. Like I just love like watch. Like I mean, like just I'm such a sucker for like silly Survivor moments. Like they'll always make me the happiest person in the world. So like the fact that like Survivor New York has those two makes me very, very happy. So
yeah.
It really does. And that's like, I think it's a testament to like TJ, I love, you have a lot of funny tribe moments. Like there's that hilarious moment.
You know
I
I'll be
remember
there. I will be
that.
that sandpit in season 6.
I was gonna say, TJ, do you remember there's that moment where Emily like touches your legs and like says that your legs are really fuzzy or something? That's one of my favorite little weird moments.
I do.
Like,
I do. I think they showed it right at the
We
beginning.
did show it, yeah.
Do remember that. There was a couple. There was that moment.
You and Billy Latrine.
There was
Yeah.
that obviously, which I didn't remember this part. I know Kai just made an allude to it, but but not in a romantic way, of course. I was like, why the hell did I ever say that?
I thought that was so funny.
I was like, what? Like some of the stuff that I'm thinking about, I'm like,
Was it the Parvati thing with her and Kyle when that was brought up?
No. Like TJ, well, they're talking about how they want to make George proud, which I always love. That's a great through line as well. Is like when you come from a similar game, you kind of have a love for it. Although I have to say again, TJ, my favorite moment of the whole season is when you show up on day 0 and you're like, Kai, you won Survivor Brooklyn too.
And Sarah's
nice
sitting right there.
Oh.
I know. Sarah's sitting right at the table.
Oh my god, it's so fucking good. And this is before we even know that the theme is veterans versus contenders. Like before we even expose anybody, TJ was exposing everyone for us.
Yep, that was my job. Me thinking that Sarah was some sort of production member, and I actually got the other part about that was, if I remember correctly, then I saw Alex and I was like, oh fuck. I was like, after him and I had our debacle in Survivor Brooklyn South, because he didn't have his crew shirt on yet. I'm like, shit, because we don't know who's playing until they start to show up. And I'm like, is Alex playing? Do him and I have to do this again? He's not gonna. He still does today. To this day, he still does not let me forget about when I idled him out at Final 6 in Survivor Brooklyn South. Like 3 or 4 years later, he does not. So I'm like, when he comes in, I'm like, oh crap. And then I think he said he was production. I was like, oh. It was just a wave of relief because not to have to deal with that, trying to work that out.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to have to deal with him either, honestly.
I mean, he's pretty terrible.
He's gonna kill us. Guys, here's a great something to talk about.
Oh.
Not New York related, but any advice for someone 3 days away from playing their first live reality game. Now,
right, everyone give one thing of advice.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Marcus first.
I've never done well in LRG. I'm going to first off say that. I've never made the merge, most recently because of self-eviction, basically. But I think the biggest thing is go in with a sense of humor of self. Like, this is, like, that's a big thing. Like, from the way at least I play the games, like, I will let my sense of humor of myself and, like, the goofiness shine because this is a game. We're not really here to, like, hurt people. We're here to like make fun and have fun for a day or two and hopefully make friends. So like if you go in with a good open heart, I think that goes pretty far and a good sense of humor helps with that.
Yeah, I would say that build your bonds in the slow moments, right? Because once the strategy hits, it's going to be full steam ahead. And my other advice is do not go to the bathroom when strategy time is happening. Go to the bathroom in the slow moments because you do not want to step away from a group when it is time to strategize.
That was going to be my point, is never be alone in a Survivor game. Like, if you wait till other people have to go to the bathroom, unless like you're doing in the outdoors where you have to do it alone, but always be with somebody, learning things about people, being a part of every single conversation you can possibly be about, because that's going to help you avoid being the first person voted out for the most part, I would say.
But not too hard. Play hard, but not too hard. Fast, but not too fast.
I was going to say that. You know, always your eyes should always be moving. You should be focused on. You should have 3 or 4 eyes. You should be focused on who you're talking to because that's important because you don't want to seem like you're not interested. But you need to be knowing what's going on. You can't have tunnel vision. You need to know what's going on all around you at all times, who's talking with who. And I would say play hard, but play smart. Don't make yourself a target too early where people want you out. You know, you don't want to be on people's radar until later on the game. If you're in people's mouths early on, it's not going to possibly bode well for you down the line, depending on how you're playing it. So yeah.
But we believe in you, Carl. And if you
Yes.
don't bring the win home for us, well, at least try for second place like TJ. And yes, have fun, and it'll draw people to you. That's a great piece of advice, Kyle. Because at the end of the day, we do this game because we love Survivor, right? And we're playing because we love the game. And there's, I think, nothing more obvious to people than when somebody is taking the game too seriously or too hard in a way that takes away from the fun. And
like Matt was saying,
yeah, it's all about bringing people with you that you think you're going to have a good time playing with, as well as they're going to be a fun ally for you. Anything else before we wrap up? An hour and 20 minutes. I don't know if we beat Billy's time yet, TJ, but we're certainly approaching on Billy's time.
How far away is it? I can get a monologue if you want. Like, you know.
I think it's like 10 minutes away. I have to look at the video. Well,
I need to
TJ,
leave.
do you have a favorite challenge? And then we're going to wrap it up. Do you have a favorite challenge from this season?
Do I? The one I won? No. I mean, yeah, definitely that. I did like the. It's going to be really weird. I did like the sandpit one.
You did really well in that competition.
Yeah,
yes,
freaking! I will say, and if Dresden watches this, I had to get. People don't realize I had to get all 3 of those freaking puzzle things, and it was very hot, very very hot.
Yes,
and I was almost I was wheezing at one point. That's how much exhaustion you put into that. But I would say that, or obviously the one I won, because like I said, if I didn't win memory, then what was I doing there? But yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because some people are like, what does memory have to do with being a teacher? And I'm like, all my teachers ever did was lecture me about memorizing things. So like, it only makes sense that a teacher needs to memorize things.
I mean, I'm a history teacher too, so I need to know dates and all that, all that stuff so yeah, it worked out.
Fantastic. Well, Mark, thank you so much for being here as a guest and as a viewer and a fan. We love you very much. And, I've gotten to see you recently, but like it was a tough pandemic not getting to hang out with you. And I'm so glad that things are resolving.
For Wednesdays to come back,
Yes. Now, Mark has a lot of content on his YouTube channel that you should go check out. Made some amazing Bryant steals. I'm in it a couple times. I do pretty good. Sometimes I throw.
I might be bringing them back also. Like I've missed them, so yeah.
Okay, bringing them back. That's very exciting. But you also have some great interviews with people like you talked to Karishma, right? And you talked to lots of different exciting people.
Lyris, Tony Tabbett from Survivor South Africa. Yeah.
So check that out on Mark's YouTube channel. TJ, thank you for being here. Anything you want to plug out live, etc.? What's going on? What should people tune in for you?
I would say just tune into Doubt Live. I mean, Naomi's on production with me. We're discussing season 2. We have some ideas in the works, so stay tuned for that when they open. We had a great first season. Mark was a part of it. Definitely apply because it's only going to get bigger, badder, and
Big Brother contestant play.
And we did have a current Big Brother contestant play it. So yeah, tune in for when season 2 drops later, probably in the year.
Yeah, and not only that, but TJ, you join Susan on our live reality games Big Brother recaps. So you can watch TJ on those. And Chris, Chris is working so hard in the finale. So let me break down the schedule for you. Tuesday, day off. Wednesday and Thursday, we will have on Wednesday the Bennett interview with the lovely oh my god, who's the guest? I wrote it down and I forgot it. I know this. Brian Meager. Brian is joining us finally from season 1 and season 2 alumni. Brian is joining us. He was sick for the Matt episode and now he's joining us. And then for our Kai episode, we have one of Chris' old friends, Thomas, also from Doubt Live, will be joining us as a special guest to talk about the episode. And Gary will actually be on for the next podcast because I got my dates wrong and I'm bad at math. And that will be for episode 11, which is airing on Friday. And then the podcast will be on the 11th. I don't know my dates very well. And then the finale will be the week after next Friday. Episode 12 is our final episode of the season.
Wow.
And we're so excited to bring it to you. That will be the final 6 onwards, straight to the end. Chris is editing it right now. I can't wait to get my first look at it. Chris, you've been working so hard, and I think everybody is just here to say that we love you, and we are so glad that you put in all this work and produced such amazing episodes that keep us entertained all summer long. Thank you so much for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Yes,
thank you guys.
Chris.
So great, man.
Yes, and then all of our podcasts will be after Survivor New York Season 5, which is the 20th through the 22nd. We are so excited to get back into things. So if you are interested in hearing from the final 6, tune in after the 22nd. We need a little bit of time to decompress. We need to make the season perfect. So we're going to focus on that, and then we're going to jump back in with interviews with our final 6 throughout the month of August and into September. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, TJ, for being here. We love you. We're sorry you got voted out, but it's okay. You're on the jury, and you're casting a vote.
I am, and it should be fun.
Can't wait. Thank you guys so much, and thank